From the Yale Center for Faith and Culture, this is For the Life of the World, a podcast about seeking and living a life worthy of our humanity.
In the early profiles of me by reporters, they got aggravated with me because they were trying to put me in a box. Everybody always wants to put people in a box. Oh, I've got it. You can't put me in a box because I don't operate in a box, okay? And I'm not some weirdo here, okay? I'm a normal guy, okay? I just went to see Metallica about a month ago.
In this episode, I'm joined by just a normal guy. You know, the kind of average Joe who's been in politics for half a century and ran for president twice.
I sort of just stumbled into it, and I try to tell people, don't copy the way I got into it.
This is John Kasich. At 26 years old, he was elected to the Ohio State Senate.
I was elected very young, the youngest ever in the state Senate. No family support, no political support.
At 30, he was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives.
Went to Congress at the age of 30, got elected there, spent 18 years, and then I said, okay, enough of this, and I went out and tried a bunch of other stuff.
At 35, his parents were both killed by a drunk driver.
When I went through the tragedy in 87 of losing my parents, it provided me an opportunity to not only understand where I was vis-a-vis these big questions of life and eternity, but at the same time, I also spent time trying to figure out who the heck John Kasich is.
At 47, he made an unsuccessful bid to be the Republican presidential nominee.
See, because I tried to run in 2000, and my friends talked me into it. They wanted me to go out there and go around the track and see what it was like, and it was really tough.
At 59, he became the governor of Ohio.
In a polarized society where everybody's fighting with everybody, if you begin to work together to solve a problem locally and ground up, you just don't care much about what their politics is, and it can actually create friendship.
At 63, he ran in the Republican presidential primaries again, defeating Trump in the Ohio vote by a margin of 47% to 36%.
I mean, I have nothing negative to say about it, really. The only problem is I didn't have enough money. If I'd had a lot more money, I think I'd have won. But I didn't.
At 70, he found himself in that shrinking minority of Republicans, joining the opposition to actively campaign against Donald Trump.
You know, I endorsed Biden. I thought he was going to be a unifier. I turned out to be totally wrong, but this is what I did. I don't have any regrets. I mean, I wish he had been a better president.
And at 74, he published his 6th book, Heaven Help Us: How Faith Communities Inspire Hope, Strengthen Neighborhoods, and Build the Future.
You know, when I want to say to young people, I know you get in a political club or you get into something and you get so firm, and that's okay. You can be firm while at the same time looking at a point of view of somebody who's diametrically opposed to you. It's possible to find value in everything that people say, even if you don't agree with them.
He joins me to talk about religious faith in American life, his experience running in the 2016 Republican presidential primaries, why he votes on character over beliefs, what it means to hold firm political commitments while maintaining an open-mindedness, his vision of dignity and a life worth living. And before the end of this conversation, you'll find out his favorite Metallica song. That's not a deep cut, but it's a solid pick. Thanks for listening today.
Governor Kasich, it is such a pleasure to have you on For the Life of the World. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Evan. Thanks for having me.
I thought I'd start with just asking you about your religious sensibilities, where they came from, your background spiritually, and where you find yourself today.
Well, look, I grew up as a Catholic boy, was pretty involved in the church as both an altar boy, a commentator, and all that. Went to college, drifted away, and then had a very significant moment in 1987 when my parents were killed by a drunk driver. And then I had a preacher come to see me and he said, you know, where do you stand vis-a-vis your eternal destiny? And I couldn't, Evan, answer that question very effectively. And he said, well, look, you have a window of opportunity to go through and try to figure out where you are with all this. And so that was in 1987. That's almost 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm still through the window of opportunity, still trying to figure out where things are. You know what I mean?
Would you expound a little bit on figuring out? Because I think so many people are in that same kind of situation. The figuring out, the working out of these questions is no easy task.
I started off by saying, okay, does God really exist? Does God know who I am? Does God care who I am? And fortunately, and I think it happens in many, many cases, the good Lord sent some people around me who helped me to navigate this. Some of them are my best friends today.
Mm.
And, there was no question that I wouldn't ask. I mean, it was aggravating to some, but I always would just say, well, how do you know that? And why do we think that?
Yeah.
And I would push until things got settled in my mind. And I don't think I ever doubted that God existed, but I just didn't have, a relationship. Basically, it's not about how many times you go to church or how many times you cross your head and, blah, 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 blah. It's really about a personal relationship with the Father and the Son. It's, as I told this guy the other day, God loves you. He cares about you. He knows what's going on. Take Jesus with you when you're going to do something. He's for you. And, when it seems like no one else is, he's for you. And build a relationship, just like you build a relationship with your friends. Build a relationship with him. And how do you go about doing it? I think it's always helpful if you have a guide, somebody that you know. For example, when I talked to this one young man about this, he lives in North Carolina. I have a friend that lives in North Carolina. He's going to be his shepherd. And without the shepherd, it's easy to fall away and say, I don't have time for this. But I'm pretty optimistic that we got this guy paying real attention. And hopefully my friend will guide him. And I also think faith itself is a gift. God has to act first. And the question is, when he acts, do you listen? And that doesn't mean he's going to give you some mysterious voice. He could be communicating to you through another human being. That's kind of the way I look at it. And the reason it matters to me, Evan, or for anybody who might be listening, trying to figure this out, there is a certain comfort in knowing you have somebody who's always in your corner. That does not mean that all things work out right. But I happen to believe that for those who love God, all things work out at the end for those who love God, regardless of what it is.
Yeah.
And so to me, this is just a great opportunity for somebody who's sort of drifting or thinking about their faith to dig down deeper. There's nothing more important than that as opposed to the Yale-Harvard football game. I mean, this matters.
Certainly.
And it's not scary, by the way. Just take one step in front of the other. Talk to people who have a faith and ask them what their lives are like and what can you do and what should you learn from them?
Yeah. I would like to ask you about fear, because it seems to me like most of the conflict that we experience today is driven by a kind of fear, whether it's a nationalized fear or politicized fear, and then also the fear of loss, the fear of tragedy striking. It's really fascinating to hear you say, there's nothing to be frightened of or nothing to be scared about. It's one foot in front of the other.
Well, it is. There is fear. And, we all have our own fears, whatever they may be. I'm just saying that the backstop, if you can come to accept this, is you got the most powerful being in all of history kind of got your back. There's a great writer named Helmut Thielicke, who was a preacher during World War II. And he writes that nothing that ever happens to us doesn't go through the hands of God, and that he shapes it in such a way that will ultimately work out best for those that love him. I mean, there are people that are hearing this saying, you're crazy, Kasich. You don't know what, you're nuts. You don't even, I do know, because I've been through it and I've seen others go through it. And you can't make it up.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just say, I believe that. It has to come to you, and that's up to God. I mean, he's the one that has to kind of put this in your heart. So we can't do it. You can't do it. I can't do it, but he can do it. And I think he wants to do it.
I do want to bridge to the book to ask you, given the very personal nature of religious sentiment and the kinds of existential questions that come along with the kind of seeking that you're talking about, the seeking of answers, the seeking of courage, and understanding that the current religious debate in America, not to mention, religious nationalism's rising around the globe. How do we bridge from a personal experience of religion to a public experience of religion, in your opinion?
Well, the way I look at it is, if I talk to somebody about this, I'm kind of giving them a gift. I mean, I don't look at it like I've got to bend anybody's arm or I've got to argue with them, or all I am is an instrument. And if I believe that it's critical for your eternal destiny and destination to be linked to this, I'm just going to tell you about it. I'm going to say, hey, here's what I think. take it or leave it. I mean, I'm not here to beat anybody into submission. It's just, to me, it's a one-on-one kind of a thing.
But I'm also thinking about the interest of, let's say, the average voter to identify with a candidate who shares their values and beliefs at some kind of personal level where...
Yeah, I'm not too much into that. I mean, when I vote, I look for character. Or when I want to spend time with people, I look for character. I'm not saying, okay, what is their view of Romans? And then I could figure out whether I want to vote for them or not. Or are they reading the Old and New Testament? I mean, that's just not important to me. I'm not going to go and ask them, well, what do you think about the book of Revelation? No, I'm not interested in that.
And I'll be honest, neither am I. I'm more interested in the ones that have appointed theological dimensions around, let's say, like the teachings of Jesus regarding the poor or the stranger, or things that have political dimensions to it, like insofar as there's a politics of Jesus.
Yeah. I don't go in, all the years I held elected office, which was 30 years, had a lot of decisions to make.
Yeah.
Particularly 8 years as governor of the seventh largest state and all kinds of issues coming at you.
Right.
I didn't go into the book to figure out what I should decide, but my faith informs the way I think about certain things. You know, if you're agnostic or whether you're a believer, I just don't think poor people can be run over. And I think poor people need to be respected and honored. And you can get that from the scripture. You can get that by being just a good person, devoid or separated from religion. But it just informs the way I do things, the way I think about certain decisions I have to make now that I'm not even in politics. I still have many decisions to make. And so it just informs me, but it doesn't spell out what I'm going to do.
For me, the question is kind of coming from, well, I think there's obsession on a couple fronts with Christian nationalism. The conversation in America about religion and the growing tendency of owning that particular label, that America is a Christian nation, and deviating from that is a problem for some voters.
Well, that's kind of their issue, not mine.
Yeah, I'm just asking, what is that doing in the American public debate right now?
I don't hear a lot about it myself.
Okay.
I kind of don't get involved in that stuff. You know, I'm not First of all, I believe that America is founded on basic Jewish and Christian principles. And I also believe that one of the great challenges we have today is the issue of objective truth, that objective truth has been disappearing from our culture. So if you don't have objective truth and you have subjective truth, that means everybody can kind of do what they want to do. There are no rules, there's no standards, there's no guidelines. And I think, objective truth fundamentally stems from the great religions, particularly the Jewish and Christian faith. So I'm interested in objective truth, but I'm not interested in shoving something down somebody's throat. See, to me, politics and faith should be separate. I don't think the state should be hostile to faith, but at the same time, I'm not here to say that the faith community ought to be imposing its rules and its values on the state. I just don't subscribe to that.
Yeah.
It's an individual process. See, we have too much of the time. We try to figure out how to hit a home run with men on base rather than just getting a single.
Yeah, singles win games.
I could be making a lot of money in the major leagues right now if I batted 300. And all I'm interested in doing is sort of communicating what I think is helpful to people whenever it's appropriate and let them decide. The idea of turning this into some sort of a crusade is not something that I would participate in.
No, certainly. And I can see that in your book insofar as the way that you want to represent multiple viewpoints and investigate the particulars of individual stories to reveal how people of faith are impacting their community with common purpose.
Yeah, and the book was designed to say that if you feel strongly about an issue, I guess you could say a moral issue, how we treat children, what we do about those who are human trafficked, what we do in bringing three religions together, Jews, Christians, and Muslims. If you are concerned about hunger or disaster or whatever, there's a way for you to go to an institution of whatever religion you are part of and create a clubhouse for yourself where you and others like you can gather, where you can get some resources, some encouragement. Those are the kinds of things that, to me, that's what this book is about. And in a polarized society where everybody's fighting with everybody, if you begin to work together to solve a problem locally, because I believe in local, and ground up. When you work with somebody else, you just don't care much about what their politics is. And it can actually create friendship.
For me, that kind of corresponds with a recent concept I've been thinking about, which is our mood or our feelings or our sentiments follow our actions. In the sense that if you flip it around, if you only act out of how you're feeling, sometimes you don't feel like reaching across the aisle. Sometimes you don't feel like finding common purpose. But if we can kind of generate the activity, then we might find that the shared sense of purpose comes after we simply begin working together.
Look, nobody wants to see hungry kids or hungry families. No one wants to see somebody who's been human trafficked, locked in prison. No one wants to see the homeless not in some way or another taken care of, or I should say, remedy the situation. I don't know anybody that's against that. It's just a matter of how you do it. And every local community can have a different way to address all of these critical issues.
At the Yale Center for Faith and Culture, we run a program called Life Worth Living. It's taught to Yale students, undergrads. They explore different wisdom traditions. And we often ask folks that come on the show, as well as students in the class, what is a life worth living? What makes a life worth living? And I'm curious what your response to that question would be.
Well, first of all life is precious. But my sense is how you find meaning in life is when you can dig down and feel your purpose and your gifts. Because everybody has purpose, everyone has gifts, everyone's made special. When you take that and follow a roadmap that can help you to connect with that sense of what you have inside, I think that's where you find satisfaction in life. That's my sense of it. I mean, if you're young and you want to heal people, you want to be a doctor, I mean, that's a great thing. Or if you kind of like the argument, then you become a lawyer. Or if you're really good at building things, you become an engineer. I think that when you can pursue those things that you feel, that's part of your DNA, I think that you can find satisfaction. The other thing is, I believe that over time, you shouldn't take advantage of other people, and you ought to have character and integrity. And that's one of the things you can get from faith is character and integrity, and know how you should treat others and how you should treat yourself. We all like to have money, but everything isn't all about money. It's also just a sense of, are you contributing something to society? Are you leaving things better for the fact that you were there?
What about for you personally? Tell me about your early sense of vocation and how a decision to enter politics would line up with this question of a life worth living. It was a choice you made.
I sort of just stumbled into it. And I try to tell people, don't copy the way I got into it. I was elected very young, no family support, no political support. 4 years in the legislature, I was the youngest ever in the state Senate, went to Congress at the age of 30, got elected there, spent 18 years. And then I said, okay, enough of this. And I went out and tried a bunch of other stuff. And, I've been on Wall Street. I've been on television most of my adult life, really since I was about 25 years old. I have written 6 books. I make speeches. I mean, I've taught in universities. I've had all those things that I feel really like the Lord has looked out for me. I just feel so lucky. And at the same time, just being comfortable with where I am today, I'm pretty happy and I'm free. That was the other thing I would tell you is when I went through the tragedy in 87 of losing my parents, it provided me an opportunity. This is important too. An opportunity to not only understand where I was vis-a-vis these big questions of life and eternity, but at the same time, I also spent time trying to figure out who the heck John Kasich is. Because as you know, Evan, everybody's got socks in their drawer that are not matched the right way. And so it gave me an opportunity to try to think about what I was made of and who I am, and I opened myself up to that. And I hope you can tell, or if you've ever followed me, I'm a pretty happy guy. And I'm pretty free. I don't feel trapped by any people around me.
Certainly can tell that.
You were talking before we came on about running for president. In the early profiles of me by reporters, they got aggravated with me because they were trying to put me in a box. Everybody always wants to put people in a box. Oh, I've got it. You can't put me in a box because I don't operate in a box. I don't operate within certain lines. It aggravates my wife who says, sometimes you think the rules don't apply to you. I said, well, yeah, you're right. I do think that. But that's not always so good. But the fact is that knowing that I have a relationship with the Lord through thick and thin, and I'm not some weirdo here, okay? I'm a normal guy, okay? I just went to see Metallica about a month ago, okay?
All right.
I like to play golf. I even move the ball from time to time, although I'm getting better at that. I like to say that golf is about hope, and the hope is, well, tomorrow will be better than today. Dude, I mean, it's very seldom that you walk off a golf course and say, I think I got it, right? That's a curse anyway. But it's like you played terrible, but you leave and you go, tomorrow I'm going to do better. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's like a game. It's a game of optimism. And then you get out tomorrow and it's like insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again.
But it makes it a good metaphor for life.
It is. And I'm just a normal person. I don't know what's around the corner, but I know that what could be around the corner can just be so devastating.
Yeah, you've experienced it.
Yes, but I don't want to live with that fear. Yeah. But what I can live with is the notion that somehow, some way, no matter what comes, the Lord is going to help me through it in one way or another. And my life here on earth is short, and my trip into eternity is going to last a very long time. It's funny, but I just got the Chronicles of Narnia, and here they go into another dimension and only step back into reality. When you think about eternity, that's like a long time, Evan. And I want to be on the right side of that. And I'm going to be on the right side of it if I can just carry out my mission, be as good a guy as I can, repent, all that. And then at the same time, I'm an older guy, but I have a lot of young friends. Why is it? It's a style. It's just a way of being open to things. And so like if you're a student and you're 18, 19, 20, okay, lock yourself in. But as time goes on, open your mind. If you open your mind, you become a much more interesting person than if I could always predict what you're going to say. I mean, it's like an AI model, right? I know what you're going to say. Just let me turn the machine on. No, I don't want you to be that way. I want you to surprise people. When I want to say to young people, I know you get in a political club or you get into something and you get so firm, and that's okay. You can be firm while at the same time looking at a point of view of somebody who's diametrically opposed to you. It's possible to find value in everything that people say, even if you don't agree with them.
And only a person with an open mind, I think, can say that confidently, because the alternative is fear of the other person's mind, I think.
Well, I don't want to go there because I might get confused about what I think or I'm so rabid in my views.
Yeah, that's okay.
And I think that kind of leads to boredom.
Okay, yeah.
That's what I think. But you don't want to be there. And look, it's so funny for me to give this kind of advice. But one of the things that comes with getting older is I like to think some wisdom. And then you begin to see things in a little bit of a different light. I just like to be around smart, successful, aggressive people. And not just smart people, but people who have ideas, people who have something to say. Everybody has something to say. Maybe we just need to slow down and listen to them. I think that's true, too.
You referred to your mission, but also this question, like, who is John Kasich? How would you answer that question?
Not what I say. It's what somebody said to me. They said that you are, how did he put it? You're basically a change agent. I shake things up. But he said, you are kind. He didn't say nice, because sometimes I'm not very nice, but I'm kind. If I need to help somebody, I can.
It's an important distinction, I'd say, kindness versus niceness.
Yeah. I said somebody, well, which would you rather me be, nice or kind? And they're like, how about both? I said, no, you don't have it both. Make a choice.
It's a good distinction, I think.
I was nice that man said that. I like that. And I remember.
Or maybe it was kind of him.
It was kind of him, yes.
Before we go any further, I got to ask you about Metallica, because, I mean, you can't drop that and then not share like some of your favorite songs and why you love them or why you were there.
Well, because, like I have a wide taste in music, I mean.
Okay, tell me about it.
Well, I mean, I went to my first Springsteen concert this year. I've never been a big Springsteen fan, or maybe it was last year. I couldn't believe how great the show was. But, I like Linkin Park. I've met the guys in the band. I've been friends with Bono for 25 years.
My goodness.
I like the Killers. I like Pearl Jam. I like all them.
Yeah.
But I went to see Metallica because, you know.
They're Metallica.
Yeah, and they're Metallica. I went with, I think it was like 6 guys. We went in a cyber truck. Just had a great time. And
do you have a favorite song?
So everybody likes Sandman, right?
Yeah.
And I always get the name wrong. It's my favorite one. Is it Nothing Lasts Forever? Or
Nothing Else Matters.
Nothing Else Matters. That's my favorite Metallica song.
I mean, it's a beautiful song.
You know, the other one I like, though I'm not a big fan of Coldplay. It says, I sweep the streets that I used to own.
Oh.
There are lyrics in that song, Viva la Vida.
But, Viva la Vida. Right. Okay.
Yeah. And I laugh about it because, you know, like when your governor used to own the streets, now I sweep the streets.
Maybe a little too close to home.
Oh, it's right there. It's perfect.
It's perfect.
Yeah. I've always known when you're in, you're in. When you're out, you're out. But you know what? The key is when you're out, you can still be in.
Tell me.
Which means still somebody that's, you know, making things happen.
I do want to just ask about running for president. Not a lot of people have this personal experience. And it was such a momentous year. At this point in your life, how do you look back on that campaign?
Fondly, very fondly. And I loved it all, really. I mean, it was so tough. Because you just go from town to town to town. And you just get dog tired. I don't know how the heck we did it. In New Hampshire, I did over 100 town hall meetings.
Wow.
And what I learned was that people didn't care so much about what your ideas were. They wanted to know who you were. And if you could show people who you were and you could show them that you have a concern about them, they liked that more than your ideas on cutting taxes or fixing Social Security. But it was great. I can go all over the country, met so many people. And then I never went into the ditch. You know, I never got into the name calling or any of that. And it served me well. And I've stood on my own principles for what I felt was right and unifying. And at the time, it got a lot of people angst, you know, about a lot of things. But I didn't worry too much about that. I mean, the only thing that matters to me is my faith, my family, and my dearest friends.
Yeah.
And I mean dear friends. I don't mean like peripheral friends. I mean,
sure.
You know, we have this term called friends. You got to think about what a friend really is. And so that's what I care most about. And then I kind of talk to them about what I might do. You know, I endorsed Biden. I thought he was going to be a unifier. I turned out to be totally wrong. But, you know, it's just what I did. I don't have any regrets. I mean, I wish he had been a better president. But running for president, I mean, and be a legitimate candidate, it takes a lot. And I mean, I have nothing negative to say about it, really. The only problem is I didn't have enough money. If I'd had a lot more money, I think I'd have won. But I didn't.
The discernment process is something I've wondered about. The discernment process personally. And I'm not talking about, you know, the ability to raise money, but really coming to believe that, yes, I want to run for president, one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful office in the world.
Well, you know, when I first ran for office at 25, I had been working in the legislature. I was writing bills and speeches for the guys I worked for and also watching the operation of the whole body. And I thought to myself, well, I can do this, I think, better than they can do it. So I decided to run, and then I won. Running for president, I felt that I offered the country more than anybody else did.
Mm-hmm.
And not out of a sense of arrogance, but out of a sense of accomplishment and vision and what I thought we needed to do. And it took a while. I mean, it wasn't like I woke up one day and said, I'm running. I had conversations and talked to my friends about it. And I just said, okay, I'll go for it. And I needed to go for it only from this standpoint, that it could be legitimate. See, because I tried to run in 2000 and my friends talked me into it. They wanted me to go out there and go around the track and see what it was like. And it was really tough.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in, but then got out early. And there was not enough there.
Sure.
But this time I ran in 16, it was all there. And I knew I could do it. I knew I could launch it. And so finally they would get me off the bus because, you know, there'd be people standing outside and the press would be there. And then as soon as I would walk into the room and the people were there, it just changed everything. And I mean, part of it is you fed off the people, but only in a way that you understand that they had some hopes and dreams. And if you somehow could fit into that, that'd be really cool. And it's a really good question. It's something to think about. I don't know if I'll ever write about it, but, you know, it's fun to talk about it.
Absolutely. What a unique experience.
So let me end this, if I could, Evan, by saying if you have something you feel strongly about, then I would suggest you pursue it. But don't count out those institutions of faith.
Yeah.
And talk to the people who run the church, the synagogue, and the mosque, and tell them what's on your heart. And tell them you need help, regardless of what it might be, and see if you can get support. And you can accomplish something very significant. It might not seem giant to the world, but it's giant to you. You never know what those little things are that end up moving the entire world.
Thank you so much, Governor Kasich, for your time.
It's great. Thank you. You're good at this.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hopefully we'll do another one.
For the Life of the World is a production of the Yale Center for Faith and Culture at Yale Divinity School. This episode featured John Kasich, production assistance by Noah Sentil. I'm Evan Rosa, and I edit and produce the show. For more information, visit us online at faith.yale.edu or lifeworthliving.yale.edu. There you'll find all sorts of resources that help people envision and pursue lives worthy of our humanity. If you're a new listener, welcome, my friend, and remember to hit subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you don't miss the next episode. And if you're a loyal listener looking to support the show today, there's two things you can do. You can make a financial contribution by becoming a monthly supporter of the Yale Center for Faith and Culture. Just like everything that we do, this podcast is supported by the generosity of people just like you. Or you could also share the podcast with a family member, a friend, a political opponent whose views are diametrically opposed to yours. Podcasts grow one listener at a time, so one little share can make a big difference. We're always grateful that you're listening, friends. We'll be back with more soon.